Alright, so we're going to take up the next section of this particular unit, 1.3, which is called as a unit circle. As you can see from the name, the definition of unit circle is basically, it's a circle. But what is this unit? Unit is nothing but the radius of one unit. And it is also a circle which will have the center at the origin. What does that mean? Center at the origin basically means we are looking at a coordinate plane. And in a coordinate plane, if this is the center of the circle, it has a radius of 1 unit. So the radius of the circle, this is basically going to be 1 unit. So we're going to be basically studying this, and we'll see as we go along in this particular section why are we studying a unit circle. And to start with this particular unit circle, we'll look at the first quadrant. So first quadrant is nothing but this section of your coordinate plane, right? First quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. So we're going to be looking at the first quadrant. So that's what it says, quadrant 1 of the unit circle. And this first quadrant is broken into 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. The whole thing is 90 degrees. And that's why this is where you will see the correlation between what we're going to be filling up in the first quadrant and the whole special right triangle that we studied and filled up the table in the special right triangle. So remember, in my table that I filled up after we studied the special right triangle, which is 45, 45, 90 degree triangle and 30, 60, 90 triangle, 90 degree triangle, we filled up this table. And we will actually use this table to fill in the first quadrant of the unit circle. You will see that as we go along. So first we'll fill up for the 0 degrees. So this is basically 0 degrees, and in radians also it is 0. What is the value? So the x value, because this is remember it's a unit circle, so this value will be 1 unit, and the y value, which is it's on the x-axis, will be 0. And remember, so this represents the x value represents cosine, the y value represents sine, and the last one I'm going to fill in is tan, and tan is nothing but sine over cosine, and which basically means 0 over 1. 0 over 1 is basically going to be 0. And that's this, we are going to fill up the same pattern for my 30 degrees. So this is my 30 degrees. So anyway, this is where we write. This is my 30 degrees. This particular line is my 45 degrees. This particular line is my 60 degrees. And this is my 90 degrees. And then let's also fill up the radian. 30 degrees when written as radian is pi over 6. We've done the conversion in our previous section. 45 degrees is pi over 4. 60 degrees is pi over 3, and 90 degrees is pi over 2. Okay, and then what are the coordinates at this point? So here, remember, we're first putting in cosine, sine, and tan. So I like to first fill up the sine as we go along, because the values kind of for sine, 0, sine 30, sine 45, the value increases. So sine starts with 0, goes to half, goes to square root of 2 over 2, goes to square root of 3 over 2, and then goes to 1. And then I'm going to fill up the cosine. Cosine, remember, starts from 1, goes to 0. Cosine starts with a higher value and then goes to a 0 value. So this one is 1, and then this is square root of 3 over 2. We spoke about this when we filled in the table. Square root of 2 over 2, you're reducing 1 over 2 and 0. And then the tan is easy. Tan is always sine over cosine. So 1 over square root of 3, because the 2 and 2 cancel each other, and then you have to rationalize the denominator, and you will find that it's actually square root of 3 over 3. Again, we did this when we filled in the table, so I'm not spending too much time. And this divided by this is going to be 1. Square root of 3 divided by this is going to be 1. What did I say? 1. Square root of 3. And then this is going to be undefined, because sine over 1 over 0, anything over 0 is always undefined. So here I filled in my unit circle. Based on what I've just filled up in my unit circle, I should be able to answer the questions in this particular section. It says, using the unit circle, remember we are only looking at the first quadrant so far, answer the following questions. So cosine of 0, which basically means I go to my 0 degrees and look at the cosine value. And what is that? That's 1. Then it says sine of 60 degrees. I go to 60 degree, which is here, and the sine is always your y value, x, y. Y is your sine, so that's square root of 3 over 2. So I filled in square root of 3 over 2. Then it says, what is tan pi over 4? So you're going to go to pi over 4, which is 45 degrees, and tan is basically this, and that's going to be 1. And sine pi over 2, again go back to your 90 degrees, which is basically this line, and look at your notes and look at the values for that, and that is going to be 1. Sine 0. Okay, so it's asking us a question, is this radian or degree? It is actually radian. The reason being, for a degree, it has to have the degree symbol. You need the symbol. If the symbol is not there, you can't read it as. So we are looking at sine 0 radian. Sine 0 radian is just, in this case, it just happens to be the same as the degree. So sine 0 is basically 0. Cosecant of pi over 6. Cosecant of pi over 6 is nothing but, what is pi over 6? Pi over 6 is basically your 30 degrees. But more importantly, what is cosecant? Cosecant is nothing but 1 over sine. So we're looking at 1 over sine of pi over 6, which is, go to pi over 6, look at the sine, that's 1 over 2. You want to flip it, so that becomes 2. And tan of pi over 2, we already filled that up as undefined. Secant of pi over 3. So I know secant is nothing but 1 over cosine of pi over 3. So go to pi over 3 and go to cosine, that's 1 over 2, and you flip that and you get 2. And the last one is cosine of pi over 6. So you just go to pi over 6 and look at the cosine of that, and that is going to be square root of 3 over 2. And that concludes our first page. We will go to the next page.